Yep. So what was Skalula like when and during the Germans were leaving?
Well, after the Germans left in the fall of 1944, an internal struggle started between the Greeks themselves. The resistance that put the Germans and the Italians during the occupation period since 1941, they sought to get control of the country. Now the other side that came back, the nationalistic side of the struggle, were the army and the navy and air force that had gone to Egypt, and they fought there with the allies for the liberation of Africa at that time. So they came back as the legitimate government, and they had a big struggle amongst themselves on December 1944. That was a big fight erupted between the two sides, and because of the British involvement, the fighting stopped, but it moved out on the outside of the big cities. And some units of the resistance, the left side, they were fighting the other side, the nationalistic side. And they formed a government. They had a voting, a plebiscite for the king's return, who the King George was approved and moved back to Greece, but the left side never cooperated. And the next year or two, we had the second round of civil war, which was the more catastrophic than the first one, which in 1947, which affected my family. That at that time my father was killed by the leftist elements of the fighting, and because his son, my brother Aleko, had joined the army, the so-called nationalistic side of the struggle, and my older brother was sent away so he would not be drafted on the leftist side. And that fight went on until 1949, when finally, after I think it's called the Truman Doctrine, that President Truman decided to help the nationalistic side, and finally they won the war against the communists, who fled behind the Iron Curtain countries like Albania, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, Romania, and they took with them about 30,000 children of school age to make them to grow up under their philosophy, so they can come back and fight motherland Greece.
How was Skalula? What was it like when the Germans left?
Skalula was divided in two groups. One was like the leftists, leaning towards the left side. The other half leaned towards the legitimate government and the nationalistic side. So there was a friction between the villagers, and some animosities were created. And as a result of that internal, the animosity, the mistrust of each other, it divided families. Brother against brother, son against father, father against son. At that time, that's what happened. And my father was killed among some other people, that they were on the nationalistic side of the struggle. The other side, they ruled the countryside. They had control of the countryside, the communists. Finally, they were defeated, like I said, in 1949, after the doctrine of Truman Doctrine that gave, I remember about 50 airplanes they came under that plan. They called Dakota planes. They were given to Greece and Turkey to fight the communism. And the communism was defeated at that time. And it left behind ruins, families ruined. More people, I think, were killed during that struggle than the German, the Italian fighting. It was terrible. It was terrible. No jobs, no nothing. How it affected me, I had nothing. I left my village under catastrophic circumstances.
Where did you go?
Then I went to Athens with a convoy of army tanks from the village to the Peratini, the seaport. And from there on another ship was boarded. I had to pay a ticket, I guess, the 300 drachmas my mother gave me. And I went to Corinth, and from there I took the bus and I went to Athens. And I stayed with my uncle there. My older brother was there, John. I stayed there for a while. I became a shoeshine boy at my uncle's shoe store for a month or two. Then I got a job as a milkman. Milkman now, these people, they were delivering milk to the neighborhood, to the people. So they hired me, and I can say something here which is a little bit funny, but it's also I want to tell the truth. The first day the man took me to show me the route, and as we went along, he stopped on the outside faucet there on the open field. It was a faucet with water faucet. And I saw him putting water in the milk can. And then the same thing, he would deliver it to the homes. So after a few weeks, I did it on my own. They told me to go around and deliver milk. So what I did the same thing that my boss did. I sold maybe a few Oka was then, it was measurement. Let's say kilos or something. Maybe I sold a kilo or two of milk, and after that I would fill it up with water. And then I would figure out how much water I put in, and I would steal the money from my boss. I did that. Because I don't know, why did I do it? I don't know, but I did it.
Well, your balcony's over here.
Then I did it, now I remember why I did it. They had me sleep in a storage room next to their house. And in that storage room, they had a sister who was a seamstress. And that seamstress sister, she had a sewing machine in there. That's where I slept, in the sewing machine on the side. Now, she accused me of stealing some money from the drawer of the sewing machine, which I did not. That's why I think I did water the milk to revenge it. I did not steal the money. What I did with the milk, I did it, but that was the end of my employment there. In the next employment I got through a politician, and I was hired at the army bakery. You know, they had a big bakery baking bread for the army, you know what I mean? 1,000 loaves. I got a job there, and at that time I was lucky. I had not gone back to my uncle's house. I was sleeping here and there, not as totally homeless, but I was smooching a place to sleep with some relatives, some known people, until I was notified that there is a call for 500 volunteers to volunteer to become petty officers in the Navy. If they had finished high school and the 6th grade, and they were born in the year 1929 and 1930, which it included me. I was born in 1930, and through some means with some politicians from here and there, I was accepted, and I joined the Navy as a volunteer, and that changed my life for the better. Then I had 3 meals a day, I had a place to sleep in the Navy, you know, we were taken care of. And of course, after that, it led to a trip in the United States in 1951 for us, for the Greeks, to take back home 6 American destroyers. And again, I was chosen to come with a couple other thousand Greeks, you know, for those ships. And we came to Boston, Massachusetts. We did some training there. We took the ships out of the Boston Navy yards to a sea trial, and they went to Norfolk, Virginia for some more trials. And after that, we took the ships back home. And at that time, I was supposed to either to sign up for the rest of my life or get out. I had a chance to get out. And I decided to get out because when we were in Boston, I took a 10-day leave, and I visited my uncle in Milwaukee. And Uncle George from Minnesota, from Minneapolis, came there. And I remember he gave me $300. And they asked me, you know, is there anything they can do for me? And I said, I want you to sponsor me to come to the United States. And they said, yeah, sure, we will if you qualify. Other people make it after you get out of the Navy. So I went back, and I did not sign to stay in the Greek Navy because I had in mind to come to America. So I started dreaming about come to America. I got out of the Navy. The dream did not realize for the United States right away, although my relatives did sponsor me, and they sent the papers to me, and I applied to the American Embassy, but it took so long, so we went up to 1954. So I got a job helping a driver delivering beer in Athens, I remember, and they hired me because the driver did not know his way about Athens, but I knew every alley and everything, you know, every nightclub, the back door, the basement, you know, and they took me, and I was the helper for the driver. And finally, I started making plans to ship out an merchant marine, merchant marine. I got my Siemens papers, and again through the Navy captain that I had in a destroyer in the Greek Navy, he knew a captain. His name was Paisis, I remember, who was going to kill Germany to to launch a ship for Onassis. The name of the ship was Olympic Light, brand new out of the shipyard. So they created a crew. And I remember I was part of that crew, I was lucky. And we went from to Brindisi, Italy, I believe, and then with a train we went to Paris, and from Paris we kept going to England, and not to England, I'm sorry. With a train we went to Kiel, Germany, and we stayed there until the ship was finished, and I shipped out on that oil tanker named Olympic Light. And the first trip we made, it was to Kuwait in Persian Gulf through the Suez Canal. So we kept making trips back and forth. Some of them were bring back oil to Rotterdam. Some of them sometimes to France, near Marseille. Port-de-Bouc was the name of the port that we unloaded oil. And at that time I was called to go to the American Embassy because, they wanted to investigate me if I could, if I was eligible to immigrate to the United States as a displaced person. Because I think the Eisenhower administration at the time allowed 50,000 Greek displaced persons to come to the United States as long as they had a sponsor from someone here, in order when that person came here will it not become a public charge. So I did have the sponsorship from my uncles, from Uncle George from Minneapolis. And I went to the American Embassy. I don't remember now the time frame, because I went there twice. The first time I went, a Greek-American lady, she examined me, and I thought I would impress them, by going there, clean-shaved and wearing a necktie, nice suit, because I already had made some money, working on that ship and seeing some of the European countries. But I was disqualified, I think, because she told me that I did not look like a displaced person. So I went back, and I had to beg again to get back on the same company, get a job. But this time I was lucky to get on the next ship, owned by the same company, Onassis, and it was the Olympic Thunder. The name of the ship was Olympic Thunder. And we started again making trips. The American dream had gone out. But one day, I remember...
So you were just put onto the Olympic Thunder?
Yes, I got shipped out again on the Olympic Thunder, same name, same company, same oil tankers, making the same trip, Persian Gulf. So we started making one or two trips with that ship until one day we had a collision in the Suez Canal and the Red Sea side of the canal. Our ship collided with another sister ship named Olympic Honor from the same company. What happened is I happened to be on watch at that time. It was 4:20 in the morning. Daylight at that particular zone was not daylight yet, but you could still see the silhouette. I could see the silhouette of the ship coming from the right side of our bow, and I saw a big, it looked like a big, like a hill, like a mountain, and I heard some screeching on our side of the ship, which tore up the plates, and because our tanks were empty, but they had gas in them, ignited, and that's what caused the explosion on half of our ship on the right side. From the bridge forward to the right side, it was blown up to pieces. Like I said, I was on watch, and my job was from the pilot house. We had a pilot through the Suez Canal. I think it was a British or Frenchman. He was a pilot, taking the ships through the canal. It was a requirement for them to do it. So my job was to go and lower the Jacob's ladder on the side of the ship, and there was a boat that came and picked up that pilot. As soon as that pilot got off from that ladder to the boat, then that explosion happened. I had not even been able to pull up that ladder again. So pieces of steel came from the sky down, falling on the side of me. I thought I started running back towards the stern of the ship. There was a long ship, it had a gangway, I don't know how many feet, how many yards. I thought I was running back there, but I think I was freezing, I was so afraid, and I was just in the same position until I saw the second mate from the bridge running towards the back, and the captain, who was, he had a wooden leg, by the way, and he was limping, getting away from the bridge, going towards the stern of the ship. So I started following them, and finally we went to the back of the ship, and the order was given, abandon ship. After the captain left the bridge, he gave the order, abandon ship. So there were all kinds of people there, trying to lower the lifeboats on the sea. The lifeboats were frozen, those wires. They could not be lowered to the sea. Some of them were saying, if we jump in the sea, there are sharks, this is Red Sea. Other people were crying, my wife, my children, the other guy. Well, I had nobody to cry for, so I thought I'm gonna try to save myself. So I went to the back of the ship, the extreme stern of the ship. There was an eyelet like this. That's where the rope goes through in order to tie the ship on the dock. So the rope was coiled on the deck. So I took that eyelet from the rope, which was about 6 feet or more. I put it through that eyelet and lowered it down to about 5-6 feet. And then I put the rope on top of the, we call them, I say the expression, in the American Navy they call them nigger heads, but I don't know what it is, So I put the rope around it, and I lowered myself, and I sat on that eyelet of the rope on the back of the ship. I thought in my mind, well, this is the last piece of the ship that is going to go down last. I might survive. Others, they were still up there talking. So I hear the captain's voice. The captain's voice says, I need 3 volunteers to go back on that long gangway and
Keep on.
on that long way to open up those big red valves that they were for carrying the oil and water.
Excuse me?
And because he had given the abandoned ship, he could not order anybody to do anything. So he asked volunteers. And he himself went to the engine room and started the big pumps, the turbines. But he wanted us to go there and open all the valves on the deck, and there were flames on the ship, you know what I mean? There was a big explosion and another explosion.
Και θέλει να το δει ένας μαύρος στο one bedroom.
Some other time We're talking now some other time tomorrow. We're busy now.
Sir, hello.
Is it still on?
46.
Well, anyway, so he himself went to the engine room and started the pumps. Then I got up, you know what I mean, when asking for volunteers. One guy here saying, you know, it was a short guy, you know, like this. And he says, Captain, me, I'll go. So another guy says, yes, I will do. And I was sitting there like a coward, you know, and I thought, you know, what the hell, you know, I'm doing here. So I got up, you know what I mean, I climbed back on and I said, me too. So we went and he opened up all the valves and that saved the ship, you know. Water started gushing up. There was a pipe like maybe 8-10 inches that carried the oil, you know, and there was valves, big valves, red valves, you know what I mean, that they were hooked to big hoses to transfer the oil, or so that water came gushing from there. And what it did, the water cooled off the bulkhead of where the explosion was and the flame was. It ran water over it, and no more explosions. And the ship was saved. At 8 o'clock in the morning, we hear the news from BBC London that Olympic Thunder, you know, blew up in the Red Sea, the Suez Canal Gulf, and there were victims, but we don't know details yet. And you know what? Nobody had a scratch. If anybody would get hit at that time from those pieces of metal that came down, it was me. I was not hit. But what I did, I prayed, and I said, you know, if I get, when I was sitting in that rope, before I shipped out, you know, for the ship, I baptized a child in a church outside of Athens. And I named her Asimo, Sylvia, like my mother's name. And after that I shipped out. So it was in my mind, you know, it was that church. And when I was in trouble there, I prayed that if I survive, I'll go back to that church and I'm gonna light up a candle as tall as myself, which I did it the next trip before I left for the United States. So that was the trip. So from there we went in a tow through the Mediterranean, through the Atlantic Ocean, the Bay of Biscay, back to Kiel, Germany, and we stayed there maybe 3 months to repair the ship. It was repaired, you know, they put a beam from the half of the ship to the front, they stabilized it, but it was open. And there was some big tug that came, you know, and it had a wire, a rope, maybe half a mile long, because, you know, of the waves. And we were doing maybe 2-3 miles per hour. It took about a month to go from Egypt, Suez, to Kiel, Germany. We stayed there, and then when we shipped back again, we made a trip, same place, and we had a monsoon season, I believe it was a monsoon season, and we had a big sea, and the ship was playing on top of the waves like an eggshell. And at that time, I decided that I didn't want to stay in the merchant marine for the rest of my life. So I wrote a letter and I mailed it to my uncles in Minneapolis and Milwaukee. And I pleaded again with them, telling them that the first time I went to the American Embassy in Athens, I was disqualified because I did not look like a displaced person. So my uncle George in Minneapolis who undertook to be my sponsor because he had more property to show for. His partner George in the printing shop, he wrote a nice letter on behalf of my Uncle George to Senator Humphrey at the time, but Senator Humphrey became Anahepan when he was mayor of Minneapolis. And my uncle was secretary of Anahepan, so he knew him and he mentioned it in his letter and wrote a letter to Senator Humphrey that my nephew was rejected, and I see so many other Greek people, that they come here, and he was denied access to the United States, and he suffered, his father was killed, his family was displaced, and true enough, Senator Humphrey wrote the ambassador, his name was Purifoy, ambassador at the time, I remember the name, I saw it in the letterhead, and he was asking the ambassador to reconsider me, and he attached my uncle's letter and Senator Humphrey's letter, and I was called to the American Embassy the second time. So when we made that trip again, I received the letter that I was supposed to go August 8, 1955, to go to examine me again at the American Embassy. The date was so close, so it was past August 8th, and I waited until the ship arrived in Port Said in Egypt, and I asked the captain, please don't call for a replacement to replace me if I do not immigrate to the United States. I like to have my job and I'll come back, but I will let you know as soon as I know. So he let me do that, and I left the ship, and I took another ship from Alexandria, stopover in Cyprus and Larnaca, and a bunch of Boy Scouts, I remember, they boarded the ship going to Athens, Cypriot boys, Cypriot Greek boys. And one Monday morning we arrived in Piraeus. I took a cab, I took my suitcase, my seat bag, I took a cab directly to the American Embassy. Already the date had passed that they called me to go there, but I did go anyway, and I told the driver, hey, stop here, wait here until I come down again. So I went upstairs, the man took me there, he told me, wait a minute. To make it short, I don't know what they did. When I walked out, they told me that I had my visa approved, and all I had to do was to go to the hospital and take an x-ray. So I did, and after that, I had the visa in my hand. Then I went to my village, Skalula. I said goodbye to my sister, my brother. The other brother, Aleko, was in the army, but his wife was there in Athens. He was up in Macedonia at that time.
So Aleko was in Macedonia?
Can I start now?
Yeah.
Okay, and his wife was in Athens, and she was the one that took me. We took a cab, and we went to Piraeus. Chrysula is her name, and two of her friends. And I boarded the ship, big ship, Queen Frederica was the name of it, and 12 days later we arrived in New York. And from there we took the train all the way through Chicago to Minneapolis, and of course we passed through Toledo, which later became my home. And I remember they had a new station here in Toledo, Ohio, which they stopped running trains later on. But anyway, we went to Milwaukee, and from there, because my Uncle George was the sponsor, I went to Minneapolis. The next thing I had to do was to go to the draft board, because the Korean War going on. They told me when I got out of in New York that my next step was to register for the draft. So when I went to Minneapolis, I asked my uncle, and he took me to the draft board, and I registered, and I was classified as A1. But then I was told by the same people that because I had served in the Greek Navy, which was an allied nation, I could get excluded, but I had to submit an application to the proper authorities. And true enough, I did what they told me, and I was reclassified. And I think I still have the classifying paper. I think I was A5. So I didn't have to, I did not get drafted. So I stayed in Minneapolis. That winter, I got a job as a busboy at the Nicollet Hotel. I was staying at the YMCA, and I was paying like $15 a week, I believe. But there was a nice place, you know, nice clean beds. But I didn't like it, you know, busboy. I wanted to sail, I would miss the sea. One day, my cousin Peter, he saw in the paper that the man was advertising in the Minneapolis paper that they wanted to cruise for ships on the Great Lakes. So Peter told his father told me, they showed me the write-up, they showed me when the guy is going to hold interviews. So I went to that guy that was trying to get people, veterans of the Navy, you know, people that they wanted to work on ships in the Great Lakes. I talked to him, he says, yeah, but you have to have American Siemens papers. How do I get that? Well, you have to apply to a Coast Guard. Do you have a Coast Guard here? No, Minneapolis does not have one, but there is one in Duluth, Minnesota. So some guys that they were driving, they took me there. I went to them, I said I want to apply for Siemens papers. Well, they told me what I had to do. It was kind of difficult, you know, the process. They told me I had to have a captain or a company or first engineer on a ship to guarantee me a job on the boat on the Great Lakes, because there were no unions there, you know what I mean? These were private enterprises, all of them. And this guy was providing crews for the Great Lakes, and they didn't want to have no unions. Unions, we got them later on, you know, when I was on the ship. But at that time, the ship owners, the ship companies, they did not want union men on their ships. So I decided to go to Milwaukee because there was a Coast Guard. So I went to Milwaukee to Coast Guard, and I told my other uncle, you know, Uncle Angelo, I said, well, you have to get, where do we get these things? It happened that my uncle Angelo in Milwaukee rented a shop. He was a printer. He had a printer shop on 720 North Water Street, downtown in Milwaukee, in an old building. And the owner of that building was a Jew. And this Jew had several buildings in downtown Milwaukee renting. So I was at my uncle's shop, and this Jew man came in to collect the rent, or I don't know, to check his building. And I hear my uncle saying that this is my nephew. He's got salt water in his veins, exactly he said, and he wants to go to the sea, you know, he wants to be. So he asked me, you know, what? I told him, I said, yeah, I have to have somebody to guarantee me a job. And I mentioned Lake Carriers Association. When he heard Lake Carriers Association, he says, they rent from me across the street on my building. You know, it's the office of the Lake Carriers Association, renting the building from him. He took me by the hand, go there, like an old Jew, you know what I mean? Like me, you know, abrupt and didn't care much, you know. He says, take care of this boy. The guy, you know, behind the desk was a Coast Guard guy, you know, or a clean up, you know, Marine, you know what I mean, American, all American boy. Well, I pull out my papers, my discharges that I had served in the Greek Navy, that I had discharges from the Olympic Light, and I still have them, discharges from the Olympic Thunder. And I wanted to sail on a boat. He says, okay, I'll fix you. He did, gave me the necessary papers, sent me to the Coast Guard, because I had to take an exam. Like I told you the other day, the exam was in 2 parts, one written, one practical. I could not understand all the terms, and the practical, they told me to make a simple knot. I didn't know the name of it, I didn't know what they meant, but I took the rope and I started making on the same rope, which was not the rope that they were showing me, it was a thick rope, white, like it was of cotton, you know what I mean? It was not Manila rope, it was nice rope. You make ornamental knots and what do you call that? Flows down, you know what I mean, not like horse's hair, you know what I mean. And you usually find those on the ships and the ladders, they go on the ships, you know what I mean, they have some nice nuts on the rail and they hang down. So those Coast Guard guys, they looked at each other and they say, this Greek knows his business. So they approved it. Now they give me the written test. Okay. I said, can I have a dictionary? Well, yes. So I took the dictionary, I tried to find it, what is latitude, what is longitude, what's North Star. Okay, some of them, the 2-3 of them I tried to find out the right answer. Then it took so long time, those guys were drinking coffee. I said, well, they're going to kick me out of here. So what I did, I started marking each question had 3 answers, 3 boxes. One was right, the other 2 was wrong. So I started marking, the first one and the next one, the second one and the other, the last one and the other, all down through the pages, And I said, okay guys, here it is. Well, I passed it by 75%. 75 or maybe 70. I think 70 was the passing point. So I passed it. And that sent the papers to Washington, D.C. and came later. And I got my Siemens papers as a able-bodied seaman, which meant not ordinary seaman. Ordinary seaman is a deckman, but under able-bodied seaman is a wheelsman. It's got some privileges, eating with the officers and the captain in the mess room. And I shipped out on the first ship out of Milwaukee. They sent me to a ship in Indiana Harbor. I got there. I had that long name, Georgios Anagnos. Could not fit in the And then I remember in July of that year that Maggie was the name of the ship. That ship laid up in Cleveland because there was a steelworkers strike, and they paid my fare and I went back to Milwaukee, to Minnesota. And after that, then I shipped out to the company that I worked for the next 5 years, Rice Steamship Company out of Sheboygan, Wisconsin. And I was shipped out as a wheelsman. And I stayed there for 5 seasons until I got out. I went to Greece in 1959. And from there I went to Cyprus. I met my wife. She came to Greece. We got engaged. And a year later, she came to the United States. She came to Milwaukee after my aunt, Gregory Anagnos from Milwaukee, from my father's side. Same name. She sponsored Adye as a tourist, and she came here, and then we went through the procedure. I became a citizen in the meantime, and because I was a citizen, and she married a citizen, she could stay here. And we did that in order to hasten it up. We came and did that, became citizen, and she became a resident. Won the green card. We went to Cleveland, Ohio. And the rest of it, we made our home here. Have 4 children, we're very proud of them. They're all educated, they have good jobs. They have kids of their own. They're great kids. And the future is theirs. What else can I say? I just want to conclude by saying, again, God bless America. It was good for me. Of course, we left out a lot of details, but those details probably, they see a lot of things flash in my mind, and I don't want to go back, and I don't know how to connect it in order to make sense. But it was, I could have stayed, on the boats, go to a Cleveland school for pilots, they call it, and this captain is a Norwegian captain, and he took a liking in me on the ship, but he was drinking. He would say, he said, "Come on, Greek, there's cherry pickers from Wisconsin, they don't know. They're not sailors. We, Greeks and Norwegians, we are seaworthy. We are..." And I had his total support, to go to the school in Cleveland. But I did not, because I didn't want to bring Yaya here, and be going on the boats. So that's why I decided to quit the boats and become, we bought Vasco Company, that the restaurant supply business. And after that, we got rid of it. 7 years later, we got into pool room business. In apartments, we bought the first apartment next door to our house in 1969. The reason we bought it, the house was, I was a salesman for Vasco Company, and my route one day came through my house, and I saw Sylvia was a little girl outside. There was a clothesline there. My wife washed her yellow blanket, and Sylvia was out there. I came up the driveway, and Sylvia was sucking her thumb and holding that wet blanket. Comfort blanket, for a kid now. We're talking about 2 years, 3 years, I don't know how old was she. And next door house was some guys with long hair, some funny clothes, the hippies of the time. And the hippies, were not, what's this, this phenomena, hippies. We didn't like it, And they were playing frisbee in the driveway with a garbage can lid. We had garbage cans then, with metal cover lids. And they were using it in my driveway because that house next door does not have a driveway. They were using it, and it flew right there, about that far from my child. So I just pulled in the driveway. I come up and I said, "You mother, this and that," I used every bad word that I knew in the English language. And I made them run in the house. And from then on, sometimes it would get empty and the landlady would come here and rent it to new people. When we first moved in, it was some old couple, Mr. Davis and Mrs. Davis, some old people, wonderful people. But at that time, later on, it was the hippies. So I told them, yeah. I said, when you see the old lady here, tell her, if they ever decide to sell this house, to let us know. We'll buy it. We'll buy it in order to control who lives there. And that's how we got started. True enough, a year later, I don't know when, the lady comes here and says, yes, we're going to sell it. You want to buy it? Sure. How much? $13,000. No deal. Good. 13. We bought it for $13,000 next door. And that started us then. After that, the rents were coming in. So it was nice, Why not buy another one? So we bought another one across the street on the other side of that. Good. We took all the rents, from one and paid the mortgage on one of them altogether. So that was paid for. Then we started the other one. Then buy another one. And then another one. And another one. We buy 5, 6 of them. And they proved to be really a gold mine because it gave us the opportunity to pay for the education of our kids without any loans. The only loan that I remember, we took it just to find out how it works, was for Sylvia, and it was $5,000. And I know when she graduated medical school, and she was in Pittsburgh, she called me and she says, Dad, I got this from the government, I'm supposed to pay $60, $70 a month, that $5,000 loan. I said, send it to me, don't arrange any payments, we'll take care of it, we paid for it. So it was a good thing. We could have made it bigger if we wanted to, we could buy multi-apartments later on. But in order to do that, you had to have managers, all kinds of secretaries there. So we're satisfied the way we are. Anything else?
What were some of the, if you don't mind, what were some of the assignments that you were sent on like the Navy, the Greek Navy?
Oh, the Greek Navy.
Yeah.
The Greek Navy, then, my job was, I could sew sails, for instance, you know what I mean? I sew sails. I remember I made my own seat bags, you know what I mean? And I still have the palm, you know what I mean? I have one in there, that you use it, you have to have, in order to make a nice stitch, you know what I mean, on the sail. Okay, the other one was a little bit of signal corps, you know what I mean? This is A, this is B, or whatever, you know what I mean? And the other one, in the general alarm, I was in the back of the big gun, you know what I mean? And I was supposed to get that big shell about this big, put it over here, you know what I mean? And put it in there and push it in the alarm now. Now, another duty, I was on the wheel, wheelsman up on the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what's the name of it in England, in the American Navy. And when we were in port, I was the captain of the boat that would take people to shore and back to the ship. And I was the one behind on the tiller, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, that was my duties, We had some, during the Civil War time, we had to go ashore but we didn't meet any partisans or anything, We were in the southern part of Peloponnese, and I remember we went into the orange grove, you know what I mean? There were beautiful oranges, were full of the year. And we just made some noise there, like we were fighting somebody, but there was nobody.
All right. Is there anything you would want to tell future generations? Any pieces of advice?
Well, education, education, education. And the reason I'm saying that is because I wanted education, but I was deprived of it because of the war. And because right after the war, there was nobody to guide me to go after education, although it was available to go to night school. So the education, and nothing is going to be given to you for nothing. You have to work for it, you have to earn it. Even respect, among people.
Okay.
Don't do to others as you don't want them to do unto you. You know how the saying goes. Do to others as you want them to do to you.
Okay.
Be alert of pitfalls, Especially you guys, young men, don't get in trouble. For instance, I know, the opposite sex attracts, and all that stuff, especially for you boys. I mean, you have to learn to use good judgment, For instance, you're a college boy, 2, 3 years from now, you fell in love, and you think that this person is, the whole world, which it might be. Don't take advantage, because, once you take advantage of a situation, then you become tied down, You cannot go any farther. You have to put a break on your life, You might be forced to get married, before you are ready to do anything. Sometimes, those marriages don't last long. Everything has to come at the right time, Don't push it, And be on the smart side, on the winning side. Not this much of thinking, I got laid today, I big talk, the college talk. That's my opinion. I never had the college experience, but I remember when I was running the pool room, some young men were coming to me there. Some of them, they would brag about being macho, join the army, join the navy, join the Marines, and go to Vietnam and kick ass and do this and do that. And a week later, some other friends came back and told me, hey, George, that, Todd or whatever, he got killed, first time in Vietnam,
You need to
I think, youth is strange sometimes, That's why, they draft young people in the armed services. They don't want older folks there. The older folks that were the officers, they're the leaders, they're indoctrinated, to support that line. But who does the dying? Who gets killed? The young. It's an opinion, that it formed in my mind through the years. I don't think there should be any wars at all. But again, from ancient times, a war was a means of reducing the population. I don't know, maybe it's still a means of reducing the population. Those illnesses come out of Africa, like AIDS a few years ago. Now with this Ebola thing, I think it's 50% man-made instead of natural. It was not there before, at that scale. And all of a sudden it came now. And AIDS came in about, 20 years, 30 years ago. Before that there was AIDS. So, what humanity does, I think, makes it so great.
Is there anything else you want to say to him?
If you have any question, you know what I mean? I know I missed a lot of things, you know, but
Like food for thought, deep things on like I don't know. An ending for this video.
ending for this video.
Yeah.
I really don't know what to say for an ending because there is no end, you know what I mean? It's still,
Go on.
you know, we wear this ring here, it's circle, you know what I mean? It never ends. That's what I want to say, you know what I mean? When I said, you know, life is a cycle. It's a cycle. It's a recycling. You know, sometimes what I think, that the strength, the mobility that comes out of me, I like to think it goes all into you. Really. That's the feeling. I don't feel that I'm losing it and it goes waste down the river, down the garbage, down the sewer. No, it's not. All that strength, that youthful, I see it in you. I think it's transferring. Maybe it's true, maybe not, I don't know. But that's the feeling that I have. And I want to end this video by wishing you guys good luck.